Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received, and the translation of that message, it reads like this. Hello, Brother Nanshi, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I want to confess to you the things that I did, all because of bitterness, and I hope that by the end of my confession, there are people out there that are going to learn from me. Jealousy is not a good thing. Being bitter, it is the same thing as becoming a witch, because you will reach a point in your life whereby you won't be able to control your bitterness, and once you fail to control your bitterness, you will do things that will hurt other people, as I did. So please learn from me. Do not be jealous or to be bitter at all the times. What happened, Brother Nashi, was that I bewitched my neighbor's daughter because she had left South Africa and she went to Ireland, where she started working. In my heart, in my mind, I told myself that my neighbor, she was going to start becoming prideful now that her daughter was working in Europe, and I thought that it is far much better for me to bewitch her daughter, and only after her daughter had passed away, that was when my heart was filled with guilt, and I saw that the things that I did were not okay. And when I returned back to that healer, a herbalist from Epworth who assisted me, then that was when I saw that I had made a big mistake. For the healer told me that there was no way that we could reverse the curse. It was very terrible. There was even a time when I used to have bad dreams. I would see this girl that I had bewitched in my dreams, and she would come to me and hurting me in my dreams, and I did more rituals to stop her spirit from ever visiting me again. I am a woman, a Zimbabwean woman who stays here in Glenora in Harare, Zimbabwe. I am aged 47 years old. So me and my neighbor, we used to be very good friends, but what happened in South Africa that caused this bitterness is that her daughter, whom I'll call Tariro, went to South Africa to work with her husband, and after I had seen that she was working nicely and sending money to her mom, that was when I told my daughter to speak with our neighbor, and so that she can also go there and work as well. Then my daughter and her husband, they then migrated from Zim, and they went and they started working in South Africa. Whilst they were working there, my daughter started complaining. She would tell me that Tariro's husband was someone that loved going to parties, drinking alcohol. Even Tariro herself, this was causing too many problems in her marriage. So in good faith, I then went and I spoke with my neighbor, and I said, can you please try to speak with your daughter? I think what her husband is doing, it will end up destroying my daughter's marriage. Is there any way that you can speak with your daughter so that your daughter will tell her husband to at least stay away from my daughter's husband whilst they are trying to fix their problems that they are facing in their marriage? I do not want them to get divorced, so that they can work on their marriage without any outside influence. So then that was when she said, you are very crazy, so this is the reason as to why you have called me, and she went back to her place. So that is where the bitterness started. And I said, this woman, she does not even see that her daughter is acting like a prostitute, going to clubs, drinking, and forgetting the reason as to why they went to South Africa in the first place, to work and to return back home with some money. So I then said to my daughter, is it possible for you to just move, since my neighbor had told me that South Africa is very big? If she does not want to stay close to her daughter, then my daughter was supposed to find another place to stay and to look for a job somewhere else. And then my daughter told me that it was very hard now to get a job in South Africa, and she could not move out of the province where she was staying. Then I told her to just stay alone. It was okay. So she and her husband, they got divorced, And what really hurt was that Tariro and her husband, they were now acting as if they were my daughter's ex-husband's relatives, being around him at all the times. And it was so painful to hear my daughter crying whenever she would tell me what was happening there in South Africa. And then that was when me and my neighbor, we fought about this issue. Even though we went to the same church, but we would not even greet each other. We hated each other so much that we did not want to do anything together, only if we were told to do so in church. That is when we would pretend, but there was this deep hatred that was there between me and Tariro's mother, until the people at church told the pastor that this was what was happening between me and my neighbor. The pastor then called us, and we went there and we had a counseling session with him, and he told us that it was not good, and the people would not go to our church. What were they going to say when they hear that we go to the same church but we do not speak to each other? And then that was when we decided to just make up and to bury everything that we had done in the past. But in my heart, I never stopped hating my neighbor because of some of the things that she had done during the time when we were fighting, because she went and she got help from this other prophet. So she used some charms on my daughter. So my daughter was 17 at that time. She started smoking weed, dating too many men, as well as going to drink. I could not control her. She would go and drink alcohol with men, coming back late at home, and I was told that it was my neighbor who had used charms on my daughter. So I still had that grudge on me at all the times. Only after I had done a go back to sender, that was when my neighbor became sick, returned back to her village, and she got help from this other traditional healer. All of these things that we had done, no one in church knew about it. The pastor encouraged us not to hate each other. So me and her, we became friends again, and our daughters who were in South Africa, they became friends again. So my daughter one day told me that there was this other man who had proposed love to her on Facebook. This man then told her that he could help her to go to Europe, but there was money that was needed. He was an agent. All that was needed was for my daughter to do a nurse aid course, pass, and then she will start to apply. But there was a lot of money that was needed for the applications. So my daughter then told me, and I knew that there was no way that we could get that money. So I then told my neighbor about what my daughter had told me, the opportunities that were there in Europe. And my neighbor, in secret, she then told her daughter, and her daughter went on Facebook, used the name that my daughter had told me, and I gave it to my neighbor, and her daughter started searching for that man, started speaking with that man, and then that was when they started the application, the process. They sold their car. So when I asked my neighbor where was their car, my neighbor lied, and she said that they had taken the car to the mechanic because it had too many problems, yet they had sold that vehicle. I only got to find out that Tariro was on her way going to Ireland the day that she left South Africa, going to Ireland. And as for my neighbor, she even got a passport in secret without telling me, and she went to South Africa to accompany her daughter to the airport for the first time. Yet it was my daughter's idea. They were supposed to tell us that this was what they had decided. They stole my daughter's idea of going to Europe, and then they made sure that we never find out about this. So this made me to hate my neighbor and her daughter even more. There was this other woman that I knew who stays in Epworth. I will call her Mai Gondo. I then went to Mai Gondo. So this woman, even though she is a position in church, people do not know that she is a herbalist. She is a witch. And I went to her. We are like best friends, and she told me that she could assist me. I told her everything that had happened, that my neighbor's daughter had stolen my daughter's idea, and they had sold their car in secret and done everything in secret without telling us that this was what they had decided to do. So I wanted to curse her so that when she is working in Ireland, she will be working for nothing, but her money will be taken by the wind. She won't be able to do anything in life or to achieve anything in life. I wanted to curse her. So my Gondo then told me that she was going to assist me, and I gave her some money. So she then told me that I was supposed to take a small clay plate from her. I took it, and she told me that I was supposed to urinate on this other hen's feather, and I then took the chicken's feather and I urinated on it, and then I placed it back into the clay plate. And then she told me that I was supposed to go and get some soil from a grave that had no tombstone, and I did as I had been instructed. And she told me that after I would have gotten that soil from the grave, I was supposed to urinate on that soil, and then I was supposed to start a small fire in my yard. This had to be done in the afternoon. So after I had left Epworth, I then went to this other graveyard where I looked for a grave that had no tombstone, and I took soil from that grave. And when I arrived back home, whilst I was in my house, I then urinated on that soil that I had taken from the graves, and I then took some firewood and I started a small fire, and I took a frying pan and I placed the soil that I had urinated on, and then I started roasting the soil. And after that, that was when I took the soil and I placed it inside that clay plate and the chicken feather on top. I waited. I placed this underneath the shade of a tree throughout the day. I had been told that at 2 a.m. I was supposed to find a place where I was going to leave this clay plate, but for 2 days, in a place which was close to my neighbor's house, and she was not supposed to see it. No one was supposed to touch it. So I waited until everyone was fast asleep. I had already made a decision, like in our street we have this other drainage tank, so it is close to her house. Her house is the last one on the street. Then after that, there is this other bushy area. So this drainage tank, it is really close to her urinal hole. Then that is where I wanted to place that clay plate, because I knew that since this sewage drainage system, it was leaking, people, they did not want to go close to it, and there was some grass that was growing around the sewage tank. So at 2 a.m. when everyone was fast asleep, in silence, I walked to the last house, which is my neighbor's house, and then that was when I placed it right next to her urinal hole, and I left it there for 2 days. I then went to my Gondo's place in Epworth, and when I got there, I then told her that I had successfully done the ritual, and then she said that I was supposed to leave the items by her house. I left those items, and she promised me that she would go and dump those items in the river so that the charms can start working. I then returned back to my house, continued to pretend as if I was okay with the decisions that my neighbor and her daughter had taken. And then that was when I heard by gossip that there was a problem there in Ireland. My neighbor's daughter, she was very sick, like she was having these epileptic seizures, and then that was when she passed away. Before she had passed away, I had returned back to Epworth to speak with the herbalist, and I told the herbalist that I wanted us to do a reverse. I did not want these charms to affect my neighbor's daughter anymore. All that I wanted was for poverty to follow her, but not the way that she was sick. I wanted us to reverse the charms because I was feeling very sorry for him. And then that was when the herbalist told me that we could not do a reverse or a reverse go back to sender, because when she went to the river to throw away everything, the soil which we were supposed to use as a reverse charm, the soil, she had thrown it into the river. So there is no way that she was going to get that soil ever again, including the chicken feather as well as the clay plate, because she just threw it there. So then that was when I returned back home, and unfortunately that girl, she passed away in Ireland, and I feel so guilty about what happened. I then had a dream after she had passed away. I woke up and I saw her. She was sitting on my chest, and then she disappeared. It was very painful. It was as if a car had drove over my chest. And then that was when I went to this other prophet, who is a close friend of mine. He has a church in Mbare. It is a white garment church. I went to his place, and then I spoke with him about this issue, and then I told him that this was what was happening. He then gave me some holy stones so as to chase away Tariro's spirit from ever haunting me ever again. I returned back home, and then I just threw those holy stones into my neighbor's yard as I had been instructed by the prophet. So this is what I did. I feel so guilty, even though she had done all of these things by stealing my daughter's idea of going to Europe. But I don't think that I was supposed to do this to her. I never had any intentions to kill her. I just wanted the spirit of poverty to affect her, to follow her, so that she can work in Europe for many years and come back home with nothing. That was all that I wanted, for I was afraid that with the pride that her mom had, one day she was going to be prideful and she was going to say that my daughter is in Europe. I did not want that to happen, but I never thought that she was going to die. But unfortunately, she passed away. I hope that out there are people that are going to learn from my confession. If you have bitterness in your heart, know that you are very close to witchcraft, to bewitching someone, because that is where my bitterness started. Me bewitching my neighbor's daughter, it started with bitterness in my heart and jealousy, and then I said, let me act on this bitterness that I have in my heart. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our sister. That was the translation of the message that she sent to me. Strange things indeed, they do happen in this world. So does it mean that if you tell someone that you wish to go maybe to Europe to get a job, and then that person that you would have told then act on that idea that you would have given them, so does it mean that you are the one who owns that idea to go to another country to look for a job? Strange things indeed, they do happen in this world.